Everybody, it's 6 o'clock. Welcome. I'm so happy to see everybody here today. I mean, it's nice to be able to talk to people out there instead of just each other. So thank you all for coming and taking an interest in your city and being here. We really appreciate you being here tonight. So with that, we are going to call to order the regular city council meeting for February 20th, 2023. We now have our invocation. Our invocation will be led by Pastor Richard Jennings, River of Praise Church, and the pledges to the U.S. and Texas flag will be said by our Police Chief Joe Zakora in accordance to John's way.
It isn't.
The right way. The right way. It's not my way. It's the right way.
Well, it is an honor and a privilege. And I'm so thankful that we have a city council in a town that the first thing we do before a meeting such as important as this is that we pray. And I believe God honors that. He sees that, honors it, and he works on our behalf. Well, he does the things that we can't do for ourselves. So, Father, we come before you right now and we invoke your presence, your peace, your wisdom, your discernment for this entire city council and the citizens, Father. We thank you. Lord, I just call upon your word. Psalms 133, it says how good and pleasant it is for brothers to dwell together in unity. Verse 3, that's where you command the blessing, life forevermore. So I pray for each one of these council members, for their families, for their challenges, things they're going through, their victories, and even their defeats, Father, that you see them, that as they've taken on this mantle of being leaders in this city, we thank you, Lord. You're going to give them the strength and the wisdom and just cause them to just work together and cause it to all work together for good for this community as we continue to make Tomball the hometown with the heart. Help us never to forget that with the pressures that come because of immigration and politics and canceling and all these other things that just seem to divide. We thank you that the attitude, the heart, the culture that's here in this town, Father, I thank you that you see that and you want to protect that. So I just pray as decisions are being made, that council is going to continue to come together in a spirit of unity and just an appreciation of the citizenry here. And we just thank you. Thank you, Father. Bless them, help them, and we just give you praise for this. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you.
Please join me in the pledges to the flags. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
honor the Texas flag.
I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Is the stools upstairs or one stool? I don't see. No.
Next item on the agenda is public comments and receipt of petitions. At this time, anyone will be allowed to speak on any matter other than personnel matters under litigation for a length of time not to exceed 3 minutes. No council board discussion or action may take place on a matter until such matter has been placed on the agenda and posted in accordance with the law. Doris, is there anyone to sign up?
I have a public comment for.
Get up and get it, I'm busy.
General comment.
All right. Is there anyone who did not sign up that would like to get up for 3 minutes and speak about any issues? Come up and state your name and your address.
What's your name? It needs to be clean.
Again,
It smells so bad.
I know, Matthew, clean the bathroom.
Carl Monrad. My address is 25319 Waterstone Estates, Circle East. Tomball. Mayor Quinn, Councilman, I appreciate the opportunity to approach. Again, my name is Carl Monrad, and I've been involved in Tomball High School athletics for 10 years now, and this is my last 10. I've served as president of the board for the Tomball Athletic Booster Club for 4 years, and now I'm on my way out and really just in a fundraising position. In 2018, we started the process of our crawfish boil, honoring a fallen cougar, Sammy Lopez, who died from a genetic disorder called Tango 2. And we had our first crawfish boil in 2019. Rob Hauk was instrumental in helping us out, getting that started, as were a lot of members here present today. We raised that year $40,000 and started endowing scholarships. Fast forward 5 years. We've had crawfish boils in each of the years except for COVID. And just recently, our request for this 5th crawfish boil was on the consent agenda, and somehow it got revoted and denied. So I'm just here today to figure out why.
Thank you. We cannot comment at this time, but thank you very much. Anyone else who would like to speak? Okay. There- No further comments, then public comments and receipts of petitions is closed. Next items is reports and announcements. February 21st is the Sam Houston Trail Ride reception. Tomorrow, 12 noon at the depot. And so please come out and welcome them. This is how many years? 68. How many?
68.
68 years. They've been coming through Tomball. And before they go over to Spring Creek Park and then on to the rodeo. So it's quite a legacy there. March 4th is a Tomball Little League Parade beginning at 7:30 a.m. And so come out for that. Second Saturday at the depot is the Rise of Gru at dusk, March 11th. And March 24th to 26th is the beginning of our Tomball German Heritage Festival at the depot. So and now reports by city staff and members of council about items of community interest on which no action will be taken. David?
Mayor and council, today is the last council meeting for Ms. Doris Spear. She is retiring after 33 years of service to this city. And to go through all of her different accomplishments and achievements that she has, it's just, the list is long and many. You guys know all of the things that she has done. The things that we've already discussed in our staff meeting about Doris is we know her as absolutely being a stickler for detail. She is all business. She's all professional. She can have a very dry humor, but I'll tell you, when she's with us, she's exactly the same. It never changes. She is the epitome of consistency, but I will tell you, she will absolutely be missed. The little things that you just, in having to work with somebody for that long, we said in our staff meeting, she is either the first or second person I always say good morning to every day. She'll send me a text or an email of a dad joke because she knows I like them. And I'm coming to find out she loves them too. And she has a bunch of those. She absolutely, I think out of all of her accomplishments here at the city for 33 years, the number one accomplishment that she is so proud of is her staff. She has worked tirelessly to try to get everybody up to speed. She mentors them. It is the most professional group of staff members that I have ever seen. So the department is being left in very, very good condition. So at this time, I know that the mayor has a proclamation to give her, but I want to thank Doris for all of her years of service here. And for me personally, thank you for everything that you've done for me and helping me through my responsibilities.
And now I get to do what she absolutely said, don't give me a proclamation. so much more. Whereas Doris Spear started her municipal career with the city of Tomball in 1990. Starting as an assistant secretary before becoming the city secretary in 2003. Are you checking to make sure these are all? Doris earned her Texas Municipal Clerk certification in 2003, recertifying 4 times, most recently in January of 2023. She earned her certified municipal clerk designation from the International Institute for Municipal Clerks in 2011, earned her master clerk designation and an 11 IIMC. Thank you, IIMC. Who's going to help me on this? Tracy. Athenian Fellow certification of the IIMC Athenian Leadership Society in 2016. Doris is a longtime active member of the Texas Municipal Clerks Association and has served on various committees, is an active member of the TMCA Saltgrass chapter, served on the executive board and was awarded in 2019 the Saltgrass chapter TMCA Outstanding Municipal Clerk of the Year in the state of Texas. In her spare time, Doris earned a Bachelor of Business Administration from South University 2009 and a Master of Strategic Leadership from Aberdeen University in 2013. Doris' accomplishments and achievements are many, and over the years she has gained the respect and admiration of all those she has worked with, past and present. Doris will be missed as an integral part of the city staff leadership on a daily basis for her knowledge, attention to detail, and her wonderful dry sense of humor that we all have come to love. Doris is a daughter, a sister, and mother, an active member in her church. When she isn't working, she enjoys reading, crossword puzzles, and crocheting, taking mama shopping, and visiting with her daughter. And you'll be doing more of that, right? Now therefore, I, Lori Klein Quinn, Mayor of the City of Tomball, do hereby proclaim Monday, February 20th, 2023, as Doris Spear Public Servant Day.
Yeah. Ladies up there.
And there will be a reception for Doris Tuesday, the 28th, February 28th, which is her last day. Oh. And from 4 to 6, Tuesday 28th, February 28th. One more. So please come out. Tell your friends.
Doris, you know the drill.
I'm here, correct? Don't get the community center.
I was trying to get away.
From 4 to 6 to the community center on February 28th to pass the word. Y'all have something, so pass the word. I know.
Sure, I'm sorry.
Celebrate this great lady.
Did you just call her a quitter?
Wow. Who's gonna know how long the trial?
I didn't say he did.
Tracy. I love the way y'all have color coordinated today.
They think alike.
Okay. Next item is the old business consent agenda. All matters listed under the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted on in one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items. If discussion is desired, the item in question will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. Information concerning the consent agenda items is available for public review. Is there any one of the consent agenda that any councilman needs to have removed for separate discussion? Okay, then I entertain a motion to approve the consent, whole business consent agenda.
Motion. Okay.
Okay. All in favor, please vote. Or not in favor?
What do I vote? It's my voting, I'm gonna vote yay. It's not up there.
Okay.
Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is the new business consent agenda. All matters listed under consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. There is no separate discussion of these items, and if separate discussion is required, then the item will be removed from the consent agenda and will be considered separately. So is there any of these items under the new business consent agenda that we need to remove? Okay,
I'd like to have number 6, just, I need some discussion on that.
number 6.
Yeah.
All right. Any other items? Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to approve items 1 through 5 on the new business consent agenda.
Motion.
Okay. Call for the vote.
Motion carries unanimously.
Next item is the discussion. Item number 6, approve resolution number 2023-09, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Tomball accepting preliminary service and assessment plan for authorized improvements within the Seven Oaks Public Improvement District, setting the date for a public hearing on the levy of assessments, authorizing the publication and mailing of notice, and the enacting other provisions related thereto. You call for the vote, call for motion before discussion.
Motion.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. This resolution will be to accept the preliminary service and assessment plan and call for the public hearing for the authorized improvements for Public Improvement District 14, Seven Oaks. This was created by Resolution 2022-27 in August. The proposed SAP does align with the terms and conditions that were approved by council.
Okay, so I know we're past the agreement phase of this, correct?
Correct.
So I just want to point out, and I was reading through this and I don't think I missed it, but I could have, and I'm asking if I did, please point this out. And I know on the plat that I saw, they did have the playground in there and the trails, but there was really no verbiage about those improvements. And so is that did we miss that, or does it have to be in there? I'm just concerned that, yes, it's on the map, but it's not stated.
Those elements are not eligible for reimbursement through the PID
Okay. So I
levy,
wondered
so
about
they
that
would not
too.
be covered within that SAP, but they
Okay.
are in the agreements.
So is there anywhere that it's appropriate to state, hey, it's not part of the agreement, but we're doing it anyway, or no?
Not within the SAP itself, but it
The
is within the
development
development
agreement
agreements. Yes.
Is it in the development
It is.
agreement?
Yes.
Okay, all right, okay, then I'm good.
In the future, can we have that stated in here that it may not be covered in the the reimbursement portion, but it is in the development agreement, so that we all are aware that we was not missed? Because I was
Yeah.
under the same kind of impression that John was, and I thought, maybe it's in there, maybe it's not.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that.
Thank you.
So
Okay.
you could simply just write it in here when we have this resolution come up, that if, you know, the bid is agreed to, whatever it is involved in it.
Yeah.
Development. on the house.
Here's to the development agreement.
Please.
Right, similar to how we asked if items were in budget or not in budget.
Right, exactly, same thing.
When it is
Yeah,
being
yeah,
represented.
Just easy
Just to
reading.
clarify and make sure we didn't.
We've had a couple of them go through that didn't have anything and we were kind of left out in the cold saying, we can't do anything now. Well, let's make sure we can do it before we do it.
Because it might be on the map, but if it's not stated, then, yeah. All right.
Okay, thank you. So motion and first and second, call for the vote.
We had first and second on that. We talked about discussion.
We have First and second motion and discussion, and I will call it.
There was a motion and a second. Okay. that's a motion. I don't remember who had it. Yeah, Martin. Yes.
Motion carries unanimously.
The next item is to approve an amended request by the Tomball High School for the crawfish boil at Jurgens Park on April 1st. Chris Lord?
Here, council, good evening. Yes, I'm here to talk about approve the amended request. We have the applicant here and he is present, would like to speak.
Okay, and the amended request on this is no alcohol with the crawfish boil?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Okay, does the applicant, well, I guess during the discussion? Or can he talk now, the applicant? Okay. I know that you had spoken before in the 3 minutes, but would you like to come up and anything else you'd like to share with us on this?
Yes, actually, when I sent an email back to Chris Lord, we just wanted to really be heard again because we've been having this event for the last 5 years with alcohol, with adult supervision, with the superintendent being there, the athletic directors, the football coaches. And we feel that it's prudent to let this event go ahead because I'd much rather have someone have to go up and purchase a beverage, an adult beverage, rather than carry it up with a Yeti cup. What are we telling to all the youth that are going to be there? Okay, because we know, I've never been to a crawfish boil without beer, quite frankly. And I doubt if any of you all have either. So with that being said, I'd really like to have beverages being served there because we have never had any incidents whatsoever.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like a motion to approve amended request from Tomball High School Athletic Booster Club.
Motion.
Second.
Discussion, I wanted to make sure the amended request is as it was voted last time, or the amended request is adding back beer.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. I'm assuming this, the amended request is to have it without alcohol.
Correct.
Okay.
So that's what's in front of you. If you want to allow them to have alcohol, you have to amend the motion and
Right.
mark it.
Okay,
Well,
so let's have discussion now.
I guess I have some questions because I showed on our December 19th, 2022 agenda where this passed originally in a consent agenda where it passed unanimously. Now, Derek, you were not here at that meeting, so you did not vote. But it passed 4-0, agreeing to it. And then my question is, how did it show up on our last meeting? Because the applicant was not aware, that I'm aware of, that it was going to be put back up on the agenda. And my question is, why did it show back up?
Yes, and that's exactly correct. And so it did show up it was on the schedule that we have just to make sure we don't drop things through the cracks, and it was listed on there. And so inadvertently, we did add it back onto the agenda. So it was absolutely staff's fault.
Okay. Because myself, I can't speak for anybody else, but I don't think it's fair for us, since we approved it back in December, for us to remove it. And and have them now have their event without alcohol when it was originally passed unanimously in December for them to have it.
And I would concur with that. And Mark and I've spoke about this and after I discovered this and text David and say, hey, this has already been brought up. And I fully supported what Councilman Townsend was saying and the conflict that in the message. And I understand that, but I also understand, to be fair, that this was voted on in December. And I feel that vote is the one we should stick with. And it's not fair to the applicant to bring this up again and get a vote another way. And now here we are a third time with an amended proposal. I think, I don't know what we're doing, but I say we need to stick with the original vote.
Another thing I would also like to say is if we remember on the last agenda, when we voted on this, the first item that we voted on, I believe on the new consent or the new item agenda was for the Sister City German Fest. And as we all know, there's beer sold at that event, and they also raise money for scholarships, just like this organization does. So technically, what we did last time was we approved one event for the same request that on the second one, we denied it.
I understand where y'all are coming from, and then I appreciate where y'all are coming from as far as having a vote, which I was not aware that because I wasn't here on 19. But I'm gonna hold my guns here. We have shattered lives that are put on to the schools, trying to get our kids to not drink, not party, and get in a car with somebody who has been partying, because it could cost you your life. I don't know if there's anybody here who's ever had to write an obituary for that event. I have not, thank God. But I have played the Grim Reaper, and I have had to whisper in people's ears, your child is mine. Your child is gone. You will never see him again. I was a firefighter here in this town. I put way too many people, mainly young adults, in body bags from motor vehicle accidents caused by consumption of alcohol. I could tell you horror stories that would make your toes curl, but I'm not going to go into the gore. I don't think that's right to the families who've lost their loved ones. I just think as adults, we need to use better judgment when we plan these kind of events where we're supporting kids. Because we're telling kids, hey, guess what? Do as I say, don't do as I do. I don't know if I can keep from voting on this to allow them to go ahead and vote their 4 ways that they did previously, abstain or vote no. But until you put somebody's kid in a body bag, you have no idea what I'm talking about. So I'll just say that, leave it at that. Can I abstain from this?
If you abstain, that will be considered a no vote.
Then I'll just go ahead and vote no. I'm not against your deal. I'm against serving alcohol where youth are at and saying it's okay to do it. And then you turn right around and say, don't do this because this could happen. How many of y'all have ever made a shattered lives? Raise your hands for me. So you all know exactly what I'm talking about. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay.
Mayor, I would like to change my motion to allow alcohol to be served at this event, to go back to the original December.
And first, we need to take a motion on, or take a vote on whether or not the council will allow Mark to amend.
It's gonna be real difficult to do because I hold the second, I believe.
You don't need a second.
Okay. I just want to make sure, in fairness to everybody.
So,
You don't, and you don't have to vote for it even if you second.
so we need to take a vote to allow the amended motion on item 1. So do we have, first is Mark for the amended motion? This is just to amend the motion.
Allowing him to amend it. No,
Allowing
just
him
allowing him to amend
to
the.
amend the motion.
To amend the motion, this is not
Period.
action on the item to approve, it's to allow.
So I need to have a motion to allow the amended motion.
I thought I did that, didn't I?
And that's second.
Okay,
Yeah, no, yeah, we don't, we
Then
only need,
requires.
yeah, the motion's already been made and there's no second required, just do vote.
okay. So we need to vote now on amending the motion.
Correct.
Motion carries, 4 votes aye, 1 vote nay.
Now I would like a motion to,
We've already got the motion, we just need a vote on the amended motion, which is to allow alcohol.
so now we'll take the vote on the amended motion to allow alcohol at the Crawfish Boil.
Motion carries, 4 votes aye, 1 vote nay.
You didn't,
Sasha, Randy said he didn't vote, it showed up on.
Yeah, that was what popped up. Did you have a different vote? I can put it in.
So you got the yay, abstaining, nay up. I don't, have not submitted a vote. So what way do you want to vote?
Okay.
Put it in that one.
can we go ahead and do it verbally?
He's voting yay. He voted yay.
Okay. So the vote is,
4 votes aye, 1 vote nay.
okay. All right, thank you. Item number 2. Next item is the appointment by the city manager for the city secretary. David?
Mayor and Council, it is my privilege to recommend approval of my choice to serve as our next city secretary, Tracy Garcia. Not only will she assume more responsibilities, but she will also try to fill Doris's shoes. But I am confident that she will be able to do that and much more. Because that's who she is, and Doris mentored her. There was never any doubt that she would be a strong candidate for us. She's been working towards this opportunity, but nevertheless, we went through the process. We posted the position, we received many, many applications and narrowed it down to a few very qualified individuals. After going through all of those, the things that really rose up is absolutely Tracy's commitment, not only to her craft and make sure she was ready for the opportunity when it came up, but also she hit all of the different marks that we look for, especially our core values, professionalism, integrity, and respect. The other part is her absolute commitment, not only to the things that I talked about, but also to her commitment to the staff, to the council, but also the community. She is invested here, and we know that her heart is for this city. And so with that, I hope you approve my choice for city secretary.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the?
Second.
Telepathic. That's what we're telepathic. All right, any discussion? Let's call for the vote.
Do we have the right to vote on his selection? I don't think we do. It's his selection.
No, you do.
And your charter.
Yeah, it's in the
On the
charter.
charter, we have to.
Yeah.
Okay.
Charter- by
Let's
charter,
call for the
council
vote.
has to approve.
Okay, I just make sure. I don't want to take any more. information.
So if she doesn't make it, it's y'all's fault.
Yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
Okay, Tracy, come on up here. pictures and for your family. My grandson Terrence, my oldest grandson,
We definitely need to shake his hand.
Go around. Go around. All of you, go around and put in your hand.
Make sure I got that in. Congratulations. Nice seeing you again, sir. She's gonna be good.
Your name is.
Just.
Congratulations. Yeah.
Take it to the mother. Yeah.
Oh, wait a minute. She would like you up here to do changing of the chairs. We haven't done this in 33
I don't know. We're gonna reupholster it or.
Let me get out of the way.
Spin it around a couple times.
Yeah, moving blood.
John, thanks for getting that back.
Well, I've called David and I said, that's not right.
You want to take the chair?
The waiter voted in time.
Later vote what?
In time.
She's changing the chair.
It's not like, since you printed in December and you just printed in January, it's back to prove it. You have to go through the.
Yeah. It's just the right thing to do.
They called me back.
It's just as assistant. And it's fine. It's okay.
Next item is to approve the administrative policy number 1 proclamation. Doris?
Tracy.
Oh,
It's her last.
Doris is
one.
gonna bring
Okay.
it.
My first presentation from this area. And last. Proclamation, we've never had a proclamation policy for the city. It's always just been somebody wanted a proclamation and the mayor wanted to issue a proclamation. We issued a proclamation. Sometimes we received a request for a proclamation with absolutely no information. And it was sometimes difficult creating a proclamation. So Tracy and I have worked on this. Mayor Klein Quinn has reviewed it and David has reviewed it. And we are presenting this to council to replace the original banner policy number 1, which was repealed, with a proclamation policy. This will set forth guidelines for the issuance of proclamations when they are acceptable to issue. And it will establish a procedure and an application for people to use. If they want a proclamation, they can fill it out and give us some information. So it will make it much easier for us to create, well, for Tracy to create a proclamation and have the contact information to let people know when it's ready and how it will be presented. Will it be presented at a council meeting? Will it be presented at an event? And this will just, it just sets forth some guidelines.
Is there a motion to approve the administrative policy, approve administrative policy number 1 entitled Proclamation Policy?
Motion. Second.
Discussion? Call for the vote.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item is to conduct a public hearing for zoning case Z2302. Nathan?
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I would like to present to you this next item to request by Apex Clean Energy Holdings LLC to amend sections 50-2.
No, it's not. This is not Apex. This is the one for.
Oh, my
for
apologies.
IAA Group.
My apologies. Okay, Mayor, Council, let me start again. So I'd like to present to you the rezoning case Z23-02, request by RIAA Group LLC to amend Chapter 50 zoning, the official zoning map of the city of Tomball by rezoning approximately 3.12 acres of land legally described in portions being portions of lot 172 or 172 in Tomball town site from agricultural to general retail. The property is located at the northwest corner of South Cherry and Medical Complex Drive at 1635 South Cherry Street within the city of Tomball, Texas. So as you can see, here is the location map. It's at the corner, again, at the northwest corner, just below that existing RV park. This property has been within the city of Tomball since 1907, and the property has remained vacant since that time. The applicants are requesting to rezone the property to general retail to allow for the development of retail center and convenience store at that corner. Here's a couple site photos just to kind of give you an idea of what is currently there and what is around it. As shown by the aerial photography is that the site is currently vacant, but is fully treed. There is a gas station on the northeast side of that same intersection. And there has been some other rezoning requests done as of late in the last 18 months. If you remember across the street with the Tabasco site, they were requesting to do a rezoning from agricultural to commercial use. And then up the road to the west, there was requests to do rezonings from agricultural to general retail also. But that was approved for office use only. But again, that area was within a different zoning district. It's the medical hospital zone. The subject property, as stated already, is in agricultural since the adoption of zoning in 2008. Again, to the north of there's a manufactured home park. To the east is general retail. To the southwest is agricultural, and to the southeast is office. The property is split into two future land use categories as seen on the map. One is transitional residential, which is the orange color, and neighborhood commercial, which is the pinkish color. Given the irregular shape, small size, and restrictions on residential lots having direct access to a major arterial along medical complex, the portion of the parcel identified as being within transitional residential is likely not well suited for residential land use. Taking this into consideration is conceivable and reasonable to support the use of the entire property for commercial use. The neighborhood commercial land use category is intended for commercial uses that are developed with the appropriate context, scale, and designed to complement residential development. These areas are intended to be accessible by both vehicles and pedestrians. According to the City of Tomball's comprehensive plan, land uses that are appropriate in this land use category include restaurants, retail, professional services, clinics, and offices. Appropriate secondary uses may include places of assembly or event venues, local utility services, and governmental facilities. The comp plan recommends the zoning districts of general retail, office, or planned development for the neighborhood commercial land use. So here is a site plan. And again, I want to make sure that everyone understands this is a proposed site plan. I mean, tomorrow, depending on what you choose, if you choose to allow the rezoning to occur, this type of land use would be allowed in this particular zoning district. Here, the city has shown the notification map, and the owners of the properties within 300 feet of the subject property have been notified with this zone change request. And staff has only received one response in favor and 0 in opposition. So saying all of that, with that, staff would recommend approval of the zoning case Z23-02 because of the notes that I've already made to you. And then also the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approving the zoning amendment from agricultural to general retail, voting 3 yeas and versus 1 nay. The discussion that included at that particular meeting included previous zoning requests in that same area. As I previously stated, there was 2 additional zoning requests in that area. And then the concerns of safety for that proposed land use that they're trying to develop, which is a convenience store / gas station. In one of the planning commissioners' research, they found that the proposed land use generated a higher propensity of violence. And so with that, they requested, they did not want to approve that particular zoning change. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions, but I believe the applicant is here to present something to you also.
Okay, in our discussion phase, we now will have the public hearing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Nathan. It is now 6:47 p.m. and we will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this matter? Okay, let's keep talking 30 seconds so I can close it.
Is the applicant going to?
Would the applicant like to speak at this time?
Sorry, I was mistaken. The applicant is not here.
Okay.
Okay. And I have no one signed up. It is now 6:48 p.m. and we were closing the public hearing. So is there a motion to approve on first reading by caption only? This is for first reading caption only, ordinance number 2023-02.
Motion.
Second.
Call for the vote.
This is just a read, right?
This is a vote just to read. It is not a vote on the actual ordinance yet.
Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2023-02, an ordinance of the city of Tomball, Texas, amending chapter 50 zoning of the Tomball Code of Ordinances by revising its code of ordinance, amending section 50-2 definitions of article 1 in general and section 50-82 use regulations charts. Subsection B, use charts of article 3 district regulations and providing for a penalty of an amount not to exceed $2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof, making findings of fact and providing for other related matters.
All right. Is there a motion to adopt on first reading ordinance number 2023-02?
Motion.
Any discussion?
I don't know that we need to see a gas station on every corner in every intersection in the city.
General retail?
Yes, so general retail does allow to have a gas station and convenience services, but it also, I mean, for every other land use within that same district is also allowed in that location. I mean, just like whenever you do apply for a rezoning, you're really adopting whatever could be built in there that is allowed within that district. Because this same developer could walk away tomorrow and it might not come back and it might not come to fruition.
be happy to consider office like we discussed on the previous applications. Along with my medical complex. I'm not interested in retail.
Okay,
Well, you've got one across the street, same scenario. It's a convenience store, gas station, and a little strip center that has a laundromat. And I think there are a couple other suites that are still vacant. This is pretty much the same thing. It's not unusual to see opposing gas stations across the street from each other. This is kind of what this land use was meant to be. And I don't have a problem with it. Frankly, I think as long as we don't put a gas station on all four corners, or at least the three, I think it's healthy because they have gas wars and keep the gas a lower price. Hopefully they'll have better tacos. I'm good with that. And I think it's, Cherry is a busy street, and that's the only gas station on Cherry. So I think there's room for another one.
has there been any increase in crime statistics or anything since that original gas station was built on Cherry Street?
Ma'am, it's going to be difficult to assess if crime goes up in the area or down. We've, in my time here, we've had a couple suspects who have broken into a motorhome across the street, run into that area and try and hide amongst it. And we've had one or two shoplifts from there in the past 12 months from that specific gas station. But I wouldn't, it is not a hot zone for us. It is not some place that we have ever deployed on because there's a high crime there at all. We just had the typical every now and then a theft.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, the people that run that current store, they've been there since day one. They're nice. They're there every day. They're consistent. And I mean, I go in that place almost every day. And it's clean and they do a good job. And I would hope, Nathan, it's not the same developer that's doing both. Do we know? Okay, good. So there'll be some healthy competition. And, but, I've not ever heard of an armed robbery at that store. Is there?
No, there was a man tried to walk out with a product, and this is a year and a half ago, shoplifted. The storekeeper intervened, and so we had something called an Estes robbery, where the storekeeper was then punched in the face. It became a robbery because then you're using force or fear to take something.
Yeah.
And if you use force, even if they're just trying to stop a shoplift, yes, we termed it as a robbery, and the subject was taken into custody by Tomball PD within an hour.
There are so many commercial trucks that come in and fill there at that. I think even, I don't know, the city fill at that station too, David. I've seen a lot of city trucks there. Maybe they're just getting tacos. I don't know.
That would be the best.
Okay, but hey, it's good tacos. I'm good with that. But I mean, there are a lot of other commercial trucks that fill there, and so
Yes, sir. Very cooperative owners
Very
with the police
cooperative.
department.
polite. They're polite to the ladies. I mean, they're good guys.
This came before P and Z, correct? Was the owner there?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, did he address planning and zoning and talk to? what
Yeah,
his plans were or
the extent
who
of
he was?
his presentation was that he would like to change the zoning so he's able to develop the property, is really the long and short of it.
So he's the owner of the property now? Or is he selling to the convenience store operator?
Oh, goodness. I would say, sorry.
Do you know if it's a national chain or a local?
I do not know that, ma'am.
I know there was a for sale sign up there for a long time, and if I recall, that kind of has disappeared for a while, so he may have bought it and then.
Yeah, I think the takeaways is that they have applied on either behalf of the owner or are the owner of the property.
Okay. Randy?
Have we made any more progress on minimizing the impact of previously developed property?
We are working on that with many other proposals too. So yes, we're trying to bring that to you. I know that this could have an impact if this was in place at this particular time, but I don't have anything to present to you today.
I would like to see that moved along on a rapid pace before we start approving any more of these developments that are going to impact neighbors.
Is also the green or tree ordinance is part of that also? The impacting.
The tree
of
ordinance is
other
another one of
existing
those
businesses
requested
when we
items.
approve
Yes, ma'am.
a project. Okay.
We currently do have, just as a reminder, we don't have a tree ordinance in place. However, we do have landscaping requirements as part of our zoning code right now. So it's not that we don't enforce those types of requests. But from my understanding, what we would like to see is we'd have a more robust tree ordinance and tree and shrub ordinance in the city.
Yeah, a lot more than the shrubs.
Can
A lot higher than the shrubs.
can you please go back to your drawing of the layout, the land layout?
Sure.
The only concern I really and truly have is Cherry Street. You're coming up on an intersection of Medical Complex in Cherry. And you have two driveways that's sitting out on Cherry. That is a concern to me. They're so close together. They're so close to the intersection. Is that something we really want to do, is have less than, 50 feet between two driveways?
So I just want to remind that council is that you are not approving this site exhibit. So what you're approving is the idea of the land use, and this has not gone through our review process as of right now. So what is being shown there, actually, I could name about 10 different things that wouldn't meet our ordinances right now, but they just wanted to submit this as part of their package and to say is that this was their idea of their type of development. So it still has to go through our approval process if they were to get this zoning classification changed.
If they were to get the zoning classification, which I'm sure they probably will, and this were to come before our planning department, would those driveways be acceptable?
Not that I can, because I don't know the dimension. If there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. No, they just from eyeing this, since there's no dimension on it, I don't believe they would meet the distance requirement along a major thoroughfare on either side.
Okay, that's fine.
But we will make sure that it meets the ordinance requirements along with the visibility triangle that would be there. So it limits, the viewing corridor up and down both streets.
And Nathan, one of the things that I would like to see is that, and one of the phenomena that's happening now is that there are a lot of people that come over from the RV park to that convenience store, and they're crossing that busy street at Cherry. And if we could have a sidewalk that fronts Cherry, because the other convenience store has a sidewalk, but it's a sidewalk to nowhere. And if this one could at least go down toward the RV park where those folks could have a place to walk to the convenience store safely and not have to cross that street, I think it'd be a big deal.
It is a requirement, sir.
Good.
They would have to meet that at a minimum.
Is Cherry a county road?
It is,
Yeah.
yes, sir.
Yes.
I mean, I will say, and Randy, I agree with going west here for what you were saying about office. What we're being asked of tonight is to change it to general retail. Whether a convenience store goes there or not, we don't know what that will be. But what my other concern is when you start looking at the south side of town, with all the new subdivisions that we have coming in, a lot of people need to have filling stations to fill up vehicles, and they don't have that option right now. If you remember, which I don't think you were serving on council at the time, we were asked to change the zoning for a lot at Tyson in South Cherry. And that was voted down. And that was one of the reasons why I voted for that, was to help people with providing fuel for their vehicles and that. for the southern part of town, like we have up on the north side where we have a few sites up there. So that's one of my concerns why I'm probably going to be voting in favor of this tonight.
Any other discussion? I did have a few questions about how this was going to affect the dog Diesel's habitat. Is it
That
going?
is a big concern.
That's a concern.
I heard he got a couple votes.
Well, I did have calls about that, so I'm serious.
I, to
There's
be
other
honest,
land
ma'am,
that
yeah,
Diesel can
there's,
go through.
there'd be limited that we could do about it as a city.
All right.
I don't think we can do spot zoning, or just changing based on whether the dog resides in the neighborhood.
I think Diesel will figure it out.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Smart dog.
I think Diesel actually lives on the sidewalk or the right of way.
Yeah. Diesel lives where he wants to live.
Okay. Well, so there's a motion, and first, so let us call for the vote.
You know what brand gas it is?
I do not.
They didn't say, they weren't. talking about
Motion
gas
carries
station.
for votes yea, one vote nay.
Okay, the next item is to conduct a public hearing to approve ordinance amendment OAM 23-01. Nathan, you're up.
Mayor, Council, this is a request by Apex Energy Holdings LLC to amend sections 50-2 definitions and sections 50-82, the use regulations chart. Subsection B, use charts of the Tomball Code of Ordinances by adding standards pertaining to an energy storage system. In recent months, we have, and I'm sure that you remember, these folks have come before you to make a small presentation. And since then, we have also received additional interest in another location for a very similar type of use. These systems incorporate battery reserves that store energy, which is to be utilized when our city or surrounding communities lose access to electricity. The City of Tomball Code of Ordinances does not currently identify any such land use. Subsequently, staff is left to categorize such land use as the next closest land use, which what we kind of did a comparison would be an electrical substation. In efforts to clarify the intentions of the future development seeking to establish these energy storage systems, Apex Energy is requesting revisions to our Code of Ordinances. Specific revisions will include adding a definition which will clearly define what an electric storage system is. And here is the definition as follows. One or more devices assembled together capable of storing energy that allows power system operators and utilities to collect and store energy from the grid and discharge it as it at a future time to provide electricity when needed, such as to ensure adequate peaking generation capacity and grid resiliency. Additionally, what they are also asking is for an electrical storage system land use to be added to our land use matrix. This land use would only be permitted within the light industrial zoning district and with the approval of a CUP with it. In efforts to clarify our land use matrix and our definitions, because of that, staff recommended approval of this land use. And then with Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approving the text amendment, voting 3 votes yay and 1 vote nay. The discussion that happened at Planning and Zoning was kind of a discussion of unknowns. They were still a little bit I guess, educated when it came down to this type of land use. When it came to battery storage systems, there were still some questions. For example, if it catches fire, how does it go? How is it put out? Is it safe? And what other cities or municipalities are doing in relation to this land use? And we also wanted to verify that light industrial is the most intense land use district that the city of Tomball has. And they also discussed not to focus on where they were asking of where this particular land use will be built. Because I think there was a misnomer that we're approving this land use in a specific location tonight. And all we are doing is approving a land use definition, and if it has a location within our land use matrix. And that would include if a person were to come in tomorrow and applied for this land use if it were to be approved tonight, they would have to go through a conditional use permit, which would mean they would have to come before planning and zoning and this body again, just like a zoning map amendment change. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have. And I know that the applicant is here, and I'm sure of this one, I'm sorry. They are here to make a presentation to you also.
Okay, we will have the open the public hearing and then he can speak. Is that correct? Okay, thank you, Nathan. It is 7:05 PM and we will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone signed up to speak?
There's an email that Doris received that they would like it to be read.
Okay.
This is from Latrell Shannon and Sam Shannon. We are writing this letter to ask you to please do not vote to approve this proposed amendment to Chapter 50 zoning chapter of the City Code of Ordinances. This involves a request by Apex Clean Energy Holdings LLC to have standards pertaining to energy storage systems added in here. This company, Apex, is proposing to build a battery storage facility within the city limits of our town. Neighbors in the surrounding area have voiced oppositions to the facility coming into the area. It serves as no benefit to the city of the citizens of Tomball. Its close proximity to our homes, businesses, and schools is questionable and scary. We are concerned about our safety and well-being should there ever be an emergency, such as a fire or explosion at the facility. We have been told that after 10 years, these batteries would have to be disposed of in some manner, maybe buried at the facility and more installed. Why would we allow something of this nature in our immediate city limits? Many other cities are not allowing this in their towns. We have submitted a signed petition several months ago from the residents in the area opposing this facility. We have spoken before the Planning and Zoning Commission expressing our opposition to approval of this proposed amendment. We are now submitting a letter to your council asking for your consideration to not approve this amendment. Sam Latrell Shannon.
Thank you. Does anyone else like to speak? Applicant, okay.
You mayor and council members and city staff. My name is Micah King. I'm an attorney with Hush Blackwell and I represent Apex. And I want to give just a brief introduction and then hand it off to Jake Steinman with Apex. So it's just a few opening remarks. This is a request to clarify the code and to impose standards, including the conditional use permit process on this use. I know we do have neighbors here tonight, and we've had dialogue with many of them over the past few months, in addition with you all. This is not a property specific request. We do have a property in mind. It's not the first one we've looked at. We've changed the property we're looking at based on community feedback already in the past. And so what we're asking for is, I think maybe the first time we came to council, there was a concern about whether substation is the most appropriate use for energy storage. And so this is an attempt to clean up the code and to account for this technological advance. As staff said, it does not approve the use at any location. It's just the very first step in a long, lengthy review process with steps involving staff review, P&Z review, council review, building permits, ERCOT approval, and so forth. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jake Simon to give you a little more detail about the company. And then if you'd be willing, I have just a few more remarks about the actual CUB process, if you have any questions. Thank you.
Jake Steinman, Apex Clean Energy. We're back again. I appreciate seeing you guys. And
Jake,
thank you for
could
taking the time
Could you
to.
put your address too, for the record? We need your.
Oh, yeah,
address.
sorry. Sorry, Jake Simon, Apex Clean Energy, 120 Garrett Street, Charlottesville, Virginia. All right. So like Mike has said, we've been here a few times. We've introduced ourselves, but just for the new people in the room, we are Apex Clean Energy. We are a leading full service clean power producer. We have projects all across the US, primarily wind and solar. We are now working into energy storage, distributed energy solar, as well as hydrogen. Apex is an integrated team of energy industry professionals. We are guided by these 5 core values: safety, integrity, professionalism, sustainability, and entrepreneurship. These are what we live by. These are how we build our projects, and this is how we are successful. So we provide innovative and forward-thinking energy solutions. We do everything from development, construction to operation of these facilities. And we have a long successful track record of this. And beyond that, Apex goes out of their way to be a good neighbor, to integrate themselves into the community, and to really support, the communities that we become a part of. So the request is for recommendation to council to approve zoning text amendments to define the energy storage system use and to make energy storage system a conditional use in the light industrial zoning district. So the purpose, like Mike has said, this is an ever-changing environment with these types of projects. As we're seeing advances in renewable energy, we're seeing technology that is help facilitating that. Not only that, we're seeing new technologies to help reinforce grid stability. And so we want to make sure that, areas that are going to be hopefully receiving these technologies are up to speed and have codes in place to support them. These types of projects will give resiliency to the grid, and hold on, sorry about that. So they'll reduce brownouts, blackouts, levelized power pricing, and just overall add stability to the systems. And this type of text amendment would also open the door for Tomball to provide storage on their own distributed level. I apologize. We've discussed this before, the importance of use. So Tomball has a very unique substation along with 4 others in the northern Houston area. So these substations are very, very sensitive to power bumps. So if we see one of these substations go down, it's actually, pretty catastrophic to the region. We can see, all of North Houston go down just because of an upset at one of these substations. So these types of projects, can kind of head those off of the past. They can provide energy when required and really prevent any major system failures. So the proposed zoning text amendment would amend City Code 50-2 to define energy storage systems as a conditional use, and would also require a conditional use permit for these types of projects in a light industrial district. So we felt it was very important to have a conditional use permit for these types of projects. We've heard the community, we've heard the concerns, and we want full transparency behind these projects. We want to allow the city, the community to see what goes into them, what we put into them, essentially. These projects aren't small, right? These are a big investment for Apex. They're a big investment for the transmission systems. And, we do everything in our power to make sure that they go 100% right. And we're willing and open to show you how we can make that happen. We'll show you what goes into the safety aspect of it. We'll show you what goes into the testing of the batteries, what goes into our thoughts and design layouts and all of that, so that you understand that these aren't just us throwing containers on the ground out there, you know. There's actually a lot that goes in here, and, you know, we take pride in how we put these systems together and how they operate. So just kind of running down what goes into the application for the text amendment. So the nature of use. So essentially, these energy storage systems is a service in which one or more devices assembled together capable of storing energy allows power system operators and utilities to collect and store energy from the grid to discharge it at future time, provide electricity when needed, such as to ensure adequate peak generation capacity and grid resiliency. This is a very standard industry definition for energy storage. We're trying to keep it consistent with what we're seeing across the other projects in the US. The type of product sold here is electricity, so we will charge from the transmission system and discharge at necessary times. So whether the use has enclosed or outside storage, and the amount and nature of the storage. So the system themselves are essentially self-contained in containers. Sometimes they look like connexes, sometimes they're modular steel boxes, all designed specifically for these systems. Anticipated employment, so the employment for these types of projects will be construction jobs. Construction lasts anywhere from 6 to 12 months. And outside of that, the systems are monitored remotely. So the only activity on site will be during regular maintenance, which occurs roughly on a monthly basis. For transportation, the only transportation required will be during construction of the project, and we will limit it to outside of neighborhood outside of neighborhood areas. And then nature and time of occupancy. So because these systems are automated, they don't require anything really additional at all. They don't require sewer, water, or any sort of hookups since nobody is on site. Noise, odor, fumes, dust, toxic materials. So these units will produce some sound. Not outside of that, nothing else. The sound that this system would likely produce would generate approximately 55 decibels at 60 feet. That can vary, but that's a rough average that we've been seeing. It's approximately 25 decibels lower than the existing Tomball substation generates at the same distance. And then the requirement for public utilities, sanitary sewers, I kind of jumped the gun on this one, but does not require any additional services from the city. And then impervious surface coverage varies by system, so would have to be determined at a later date once there's a design for this type of project. And I will hand it back to Micah to talk through a bit more on the CUP.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. I'll be very brief and buzz through these because I know many of you are familiar with this. And many of the members of the public are as well, but I want to make sure this is out there, this information about the code requirements. So with the conditional use permit, as you know, it requires submitting an application to city staff. That requires a concept plan that shows the site layout. And no permit can be issued until that conditional use permit goes through the staff, P&Z, and council process. It's not obligatory for council to approve it. Council does have the option to approve the CUP, deny it, or to approve it with added conditions to ensure compatibility with surrounding uses. In addition, you can't extend the use once it's approved. If it's approved, you can't just go out and add more battery storage facilities or increase the intensity of those uses. You would have to come back through the entire process if you were to ever want to enlarge or extend or relocate that use. And then, of course, you have to get all of your state and local permits and approvals as well. The mentioned the concept plan, that would actually become part of the ordinance if it were to ever be approved. The steps that are included with the CUP process include a pre-application conference with the city manager's office, the ordinance approval process, the concept plan, the actual construction after all permits are approved, and then making sure things like, taxes are paid on the property. This is really hard to read. There's a lot of code provisions regarding conditional use permits, so I apologize for the small size font, but this kind of goes over the process. This is in the code so that if you want to reference in the future, it's at 50-81. Standards that go into this include things like ingress, egress, making sure that utilities are appropriate, that there's adequate screening and buffering. It can include minimum setback requirements from adjacent land uses, signage, limiting the height and bulk of structures to more restrictive than what would be allowed under the light industrial zoning category. Things like building materials and that sort of thing. And then the conditions that the council can add to any conditional use site plan. Unlike certain other zoning cases, you can't go to the Board of Adjustments to get a variance or get any waivers from council imposed conditions to any approved conditional use permit. So with that, I'll stop and make myself and Jake available should you have any questions. Thank you for your consideration.
Wait till the public hearing is closed to ask questions.
So is there any other people who are wishing to speak? Okay, then closing the public hearing at 7:21 p.m. The next is to approve on first reading by caption only ordinance number 2023-03.
Motion. Second.
Call for the vote.
This is for reading.
Reading only.
We'll make sure it's clarified. Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. Ordinance number 2023-03, an ordinance of the city of Tomball area, Tomball, Texas, amending chapter 50 zoning of the Tomball Code of Ordinances by revising its code of ordinances, amending section 50-2 definitions of article 1 in general and section 50-82 use regulations charts, subsection B use charts of article 3 district regulations, providing for a penalty of an amount not to exceed 2,000 for each day of violation of any provision hereof, making findings of fact and providing for other related matters.
My own edification, calling for votes on first reading. If they're voted down, does that mean you don't go to the next one?
Yes.
Okay, and that
Never
would
seen
kill,
that one.
okay, I was just curious. I've never, I don't know. Okay, so let's call for the vote. Sorry, motion to approve on first reading by caption only ordinance number 120.
Motion.
Second.
Okay.
No,
that was for reading only, right?
That was
She
for the
just read
reading
it.
only.
She just read it.
So we have to have a motion now to take action on it, correct?
Right.
And that's what we just did, sir.
All right, well, that's, she was saying that by.
That was my own knowledge.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now it's discussion time.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I got a question for Nathan, I guess. Nathan, we're supposed to be going and doing our future land use, our future all this. Why are we doing this, jumping ahead on this one?
Because as our ordinance states is that if an applicant wants to come forward and request this at any given time, they may, and this is what this particular applicant did.
But again, we're changing stuff that future land use, all that kind of stuff to get this in.
This has nothing to do with the future land use. This would actually be allowance for this type of land use permitted in our land use matrix with a CUP. So you're just adding an additional use that would be allowed in light industrial anywhere in the city. And so that's really what's being requested at this particular time. And there is no real, even though that Apex was kind of going in further as to what they actually do, there's no request at this particular time to place that storage system anywhere in the city.
Well, I can go, I guess, on record now. I'll never vote for them to be able to put this in the city limits of Tomball. Because first of all, they're monitored remotely, they said. To me, something like this needs security around 24/7. And fencing security, not anymore.
And that probably would be a good question for them.
Well,
But
I'm just.
yeah, and
not
I'm just,
gonna vote for it anyway.
what staff wants to make sure you understand too is that we look for emerging trends. We look for different things of different types of land uses, right? And so we also look into our ETJ and into our future, right? So we have a lot of area to actually expand to our north, and then in some areas to our east and some areas to our west. And so there could be actually locations in, at a future date that this might actually work in those different locations within the city. Because currently I marked off, if you a number of land uses that we currently have within our system, within our land use matrix, that, staff, I won't go into great detail, but what we tried to do is we looked at it very, not with a bias, right? We were saying what is similar in intensity. And so we have things like a salvage storage yard that's allowed in light industrial with a conditional use permit. We have scientific and industrial research laboratories hazardous that's permitted by right without even coming before you for a conditional use permit. There is the chemicals agricultural manufacturing site, which is allowed with a conditional use permit within the city right now. We also have, there's a petroleum storage facility, which would store petroleum.
Are those all in light industry?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And some of them permitted by right and some permitted with a conditional use permit.
In light industry,
That's correct. And so, I'm sorry?
not in ag.
No, sir.
So
All within light industrial. And so what this would do is that it gives you and planning and zoning the opportunity to enforce what reasonable restrictions are. And I think the gentleman did a very good job. I was going to explain some of that to you too, is that this body has the right to enforce any conditions that they see fit, especially in its location, wherever it's proposed.
If I may, are you through, sir?
I'm good.
Lauren, this is a question for you. With the recent legislative action taken by the state of Texas on setting up facades and what building requirements and everything else that they propose, didn't that remove our ability to make anything, apply any rules of our own to these types of businesses?
No, we still have some flexibility there.
As far as the facades go, as far as the buildings, the containers, this, that, and the other, we have that right? If we have that right, why don't we have it on Main Street?
Well, because it's two different things, Councilman. I don't think this necessarily, facade is going to apply to this type of facility. And so there are some, requirements that we can still pose.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I'm kind of like Councilman Dunnigan. And maybe if we have stuff in our ordinances that allow things like hazardous, maybe we need to relook at that. If that's not established by state law or federal law, maybe we need to look at our resolutions and say, man, we're not going to allow hazardous stuff. Again, as a firefighter, and I'm going back many, many years here now, my biggest concern is having a fire out there. Lithium is much like magnesium in the way it burns. You put water on magnesium and it explodes. Randy, correct me if I'm wrong. If you put water on lithium, what happens?
I've never seen a lithium fire personally, but I know they're very, very difficult to put out.
Okay. And are there hazardous odors and plumes and other things that we have to be concerned about in that kind of a situation.
Fire produces all sorts of off gases that most likely would be hazardous to somebody's health.
I don't want Ohio, and I'm not picking on you, Mark. I don't want an Ohio
That's the
incident.
other side of the state.
Okay. I don't want an Ohio incident here in Tomball, okay? We got people up there who are really, really sick. We got animals dying left and right. I'm gonna be voting no against this text amendment.
So, Mayor, last summer, you asked me to go to the Centerpoint Forum on energy and the future of energy transmission and resiliency of the grid. And there was a lot of discussion around alternative energies, but there was a lot of discussion around these type of storage facilities in that particular cities such as Angleton in Brazoria County has had one in their city for a few years, and the mayor spoke on it and spoke very well about their partnership with the company that did it. And I think Tesla was involved in some of the storage stuff as well. There was a lot of discussion about fires, and I think there was a recent fire in West New Mexico or Arizona somewhere that kind of brought this up, and there was a lot of concern about that. And my question is to you, Nathan, first, is does our ordinances need revision, in your opinion, to address things like this?
Yes.
All right. So if that's true, now, with this particular storage facility, can it only be located next to a substation? And that may be a question to the Apex.
Jake Steinman, Apex Clean Energy. Yes and no. So you have to, there's a lot that goes into it. You have to look at the economics of the project, essentially, and rules with ERCOT. So there are certain distances that you can build them away from other substations. The most economical is to build them next to an existing substation. Otherwise, you have to build that same exact equipment that's at that substation elsewhere. So, but it along the transmission line, yes.
So essentially what you're saying is if you don't build it next to the substation, then you have to build basically another substation somewhere along the way.
Correct.
Okay, very good. And are these batteries wrapped in some kind of lithium fire blanket to cool them down at all?
So the batteries themselves are actually very small individually, and they're kind of, stacked up, and so think of like a laptop battery. So they're contained within like a foil container and built into racks, and the racks, stack into like a server rack. And then we have alternate cooling for those racks. So there's not necessarily like a blanket around like the battery per se, but each cell is protected individually.
Okay, all right, thank you. So are these types of facilities subject to property taxes?
I would absolutely think so.
Just like any subdivision or residential or
Okay.
commercial.
Do we collect taxes on the substations currently we have in the city?
This is a for-profit business.
Well, so is a substation.
We do.
We do, yeah.
Yes, sir. When they're owned by a private entity, they are
Subject
to property taxes, any other commercial property. Their valuation is handled a little bit differently, obviously, than a box store, but they are taxed.
So Centerpoint, we get taxed revenues from Centerpoint for their substation.
Yes, sir.
Interesting. Thank you.
So my point in asking all of this is, Nathan, I think because of what I heard at that forum, I think we need to really consider amending our wording in the ordinance to accommodate these kinds of things. But I will stop short in saying that we need to put this by this substation. We need to protect our neighbors. And our neighbors have concerns about this. I know it's kind of in that light industrial color up in that area. But it's just too much to have in that area. The risk is too high, I think. And what we saw in Ohio, I mean, that's scary. And that could be happening right in the heart of Tomball. So I support this type of thing. I just don't like where it is being proposed. And I know that's not part of what we're voting on tonight. I support the wording change because, I mean, this is the wave that's coming to try to support the grid and make it more resilient. And we're going to see more and more of these around us and stuff like that. Around us, I'm good with, but not in the heart of Tomball. And so I just think if we, is this the only substation in Tomball?
I don't have an answer to that.
There's 3 or 4. in total.
Yeah, but keep the big four.
Where are they? And is there a better choice?
They're in the city limits.
Councilman Ford, what
Yeah.
concerns me is when we make this text amendment, we're going to be allowing this in any light industrial area, any light industrial area.
Still have to come back to us.
But yeah,
They
sometimes-
still have to come back and so, and I'm not so sure the technology is going to be there that they, I don't know, maybe Apex can answer this too, but are they always going to have to be next to a substation? Is it somewhere down the line where these things could be located along transmission lines and somewhere else?
DC current runs shorter distances than AC current.
Yeah.
So when you have an AC substation, you can ship that stuff a long, long ways. When you are doing DC direct current, it travels very short distances at very high amperages. Okay. So it needs to be close to a substation so that they can put it onto the grid. Or they have to build a substation that they can put it onto the grid.
Yeah, I only made a C in physics, so.
Well, I've got a degree in electronics and
There you go.
electricity. So
There you go. Okay. All right. So anyway, that kind of answers my question. I mean, I agree that, again, this is the future and I understand that. And we've got to do something to support the grid. I just don't want to see it right in the heart of Tomball. And I sure don't want my neighbors concerned with that kind of thing. And if something should happen, where's that smoke going to go?
Yeah, and just a real quick response to that was that the reason why staff felt we feel the same way, right? We want to protect, the goal of our ordinances are to protect our single family residential
Right.
neighborhoods, right? And so the reason why we felt okay with the way what we recommended was that there was a CUP. So depending on the location, when they come in to submit to you, you as a body have a right to say, well, no, it's too close to a single family residential neighborhood, or no, you're too close to, a water distribution center or something along those lines,
Yeah.
because what if this happened, or
Yeah.
a rail yard where there could be a train derailment and it hits this particular location. There's a wide variety of reasons why you might not pick that location, right? So having that CUP in place covers all.
I just can't see as tight as Tomball is with the land and what's going in and what's possibly going in the future, that there's a place in Tomball for one of these to reside. I just don't see it.
Yeah, and I do have a question. The question that for this council tonight is, in our 13 square miles or 12.7, whatever it is, and with the massive growth that we have had since our zoning ordinances were done, which is why we are starting to redo our zoning and looking at that again. Is this what you want to vote? into the city limits of Tomball. Nothing against the project, but that's kind of the bottom line that we're voting on right now. If we open the door in our zoning to have it, then we are saying, yes, we want this to actually be in the city limits of Tomball. And so there's a lot of, yes, it probably is the wave of the future. I don't know if Angleton's is inside their city limits. I thought it was further out down 288. That is more open prairie and duck hunting land. I don't know.
No,
But,
he said it's in.
But that's what we're voting on tonight is, do we want to change this? And after you just said all those hazardous things that were still there, that we have in our zoning now, please make sure that's on the agenda when we look at.
Oh, of course, yeah,
different zonings.
we'll be reviewing all of our land uses.
It's different when we had a lot more vacant land. We don't have as much vacant land now as we did when we did our zoning ordinances. So nothing against this program. They're great partners wherever they go. They're very philanthropic. That's the vote we're looking at from this council tonight.
And so
Yes or no?
it begs the question, if we really don't have a place that could go safely in Tomball, why even change the wording if we're really not going to consider this in the future? Maybe the technology changes, but it's kind of a moot point.
Council and Mayor, I think it's always better to have a classification for a use because let's say it's a different company, they come and have a request, then staff is left up to where does it best fit? Because property does they have a right to be able to do what they want on the property and ask for that. And so I think the clarification, the best we can, especially have all of the controls in there based on a case-by-case basis, the council can consider them. And I think that's why you see it on the agenda. One for clarification, going back to Councilman Dunnigan's point that he made earlier, is that we are doing the update to the master land use plan, which part of that could result in changes to the zoning ordinance. That's where we would do some rewrites and add some definitions and add some of those things. And am I correct in saying that?
Yes, sir.
So to your point, Councilman Dunnigan, absolutely that this will be something that we consider as we go as part of that process.
So you're asking us basically to do a text amendment tonight for something that potentially could happen in the future somewhere in the 12.73 square miles of the city of Tomball, correct? Is that basically correct statement?
I would like to clarify, I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead.
I'm sorry, sir. I just want to make sure staff is not making this recommendation. Apex has put forward an application for this. So I just want to make sure there's a distinction
Sure.
between the two.
Okay, so
Okay.
anyway, it's been brought before this body. Let me rephrase that. Is that
Sorry.
better?
Yes, sir.
Can we not do the same thing once the technology changes at a later date and it becomes more advanced? Everybody said these windmills were the greatest thing since sliced bread. And they're around here, and if you drive out to West Texas, there's very few of them that are operating at times. If you drive down to Corpus Christi, which I've done on many occasions, very few of those things are operating at any one time. They use fuel oil and diesel to start the generators in order to turn the turbines so that they can generate electricity. I saw in one of this presentation tonight, those great big windmills. The constituents of this town would just be absolutely up in arms if we started allowing windmills the size of what we see on the prairies of Texas here in Tomball, Texas. This is an oil and gas town. It has been since it was founded. So again, my thought is, why do we need to change something now? Why fix something that's not broke? Right now, I don't feel like the technology is here to be able for us to have this out here. Maybe in 10 years when it's better and the technology is more advanced, maybe then it might be. But why do we need to go put a slot? Because all I feel like every time you put a slot in, you're putting a slippery slope to fall off into it. And that's just what I'm thinking.
Any more discussion?
I think somebody's got something to say.
Okay, I'll come out and speak.
Thank you, Councilmember, Mayor, for the opportunity. Just to make one final point. All of this discussion makes a lot of sense. I understand the concerns and arguments for and against, absolutely. To me, as a former assistant city attorney, I see this as a matter of clarity in the code. And I know that there are competitors of ours who are planning to submit conditional use permit applications under the substation use. And that's going to create more confusion and result in this debate happening again. And it could lead to them appealing if you deny it because you say, well, it's not a substation use. I'm just saying that this is the cleanest way to address that and reduce the ambiguity without committing to, bless you, without committing to any land use. That was my only point. So thank you.
Nathan, can you expand on that, please? That we have a substation category?
Right, so, I'm sorry,
and
go ahead.
people can come in and put these in under a CUP?
Right, so because we didn't have a land use type or a definition for this, the closest that we currently have within our ordinance is a substation. So we have substation is called out within our land use matrix. So we try to find something because not every single use is located in our land use matrix, but we try to find similarities between the two so we could have a comparison, a very equal comparison. And so what both of those end up doing, they're very similar in their usage and what they do. But what we wanted to do here was, or what actually Apex wanted to do was to actually clarify that land use type and submit for this text change. So if somebody were to come in like they were going to do before, they were going to come in under a substation and then request a CUP to go along with it. In this particular case, we're changing it to recognize the actual usage, which is an energy storage system. And we would request for a CUP for that to occur if a person were to apply for one.
And I know Tomball's very development, we look for any way to make it happen, but have we ever said, this isn't covered in our zoning? And no, you can't do that.
Since I've been here, we hadn't had that situation occur.
Okay, because if a CUP, conditional use permit, we already have a classification where this can come in under a CUP. And now we're clarifying to make it easier, is what this is.
No, ma'am. It would be
To
equivalent.
be more defined.
More defined is a
To
better
be
term.
more
Yes, ma'am.
defined. Okay, I want to make sure I understood the comments. Thank you.
If I can speak, Mayor.
Mhm.
First of all, let me just say, I agree with pretty much everybody else said. Within the current city limits that we have today, I don't think a facility like this would be right for us. But we do have issues at times where we do ask staff to bring before us different things to clarify things, to make it easier for them. So they're not having to second guess on where things fall. And I think that's what we're asking. And what Apex is asking for tonight, in my opinion, is no different than what we currently have with the substation, with what I'm hearing, where they still require a CUP. They would, even though we would have this understanding for lithium battery storage, it would still require a CUP. So any future council or even us would have to grant the CUP. Is, if I'm correct in understanding this. And then on top of that, who's to say next year or 5 years from now, land that is adjacent to the city of Tomball now isn't asked to be annexed just for one of these facilities, that they could annex as light industrial and do that, where it would be more outside of our current city limits, but more open where something like this could be acceptable. And the other thing that is in the back of my mind, because I've just been having these memories pop up on my Facebook. 2 years ago, when the city was without power for 3 or 4 days, I'll bet you there's a lot of people who would consider it lithium battery power back then, as long as it was safe. And I'm not looking to give up any safety for our residents. But I do think, like John mentioned, it is something that's going to be in the future. And I think what we're doing is trying to prepare for it, but we're not giving it carte blanche because it's still going to be protected by a CUP. That council has the final say.
Yeah, they're just asking us to define a use.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
Is
Get
it
back on
possible?
One thing you just said
Yes.
about the use of electricity, about the use of that.
Mhm.
For it to be used in Tomball, you've got to set up I think this is what you said the other day. For Tomball only and not to go to River Oaks, you have to set up a deal just for Tomball, correct?
Yeah, correct.
So this is, even though you put it here, it's not for Tomball.
Yeah, because
It's for the whole thing.
I asked that question
He said
a couple of times ago when they came into the presentations. I said, can you guarantee
You can't.
that in a power outage that Tomball would get the benefits from that here locally versus it going somewhere else? If we're willing to give the permission to have that type of a business here, are we going to get any preferential treatment? And their answer was very clear. There is no way they can do that.
Correct. I mean,
So-
and they mentioned that in their presentation where they're talking about the northern part of Harris, Houston area for the ERCOT grid. And after 2 years ago, I was hoping that the governor and the state representatives would improve ERCOT, and they didn't. And unfortunately, we're still somewhat in the same situation with them as what we were.
Do we have any idea, and just basically for my edification, you may know this, Nathan, you may know it. During that freeze in that period of time, how much of this green power was actually flowing and generating to anyone's home during that period of time?
You mean like battery storage?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, there wasn't a lot of that at that time. This battery stuff has just started to come on the scene, if I'm pretty correct, at least in this area. The Angleton project is, I think, about 2 years old. And that particular battery storage park has enough energy to power 20,000 homes for 24 hours.
And they were in the same situation we were in when this hit. It was a relatively new battery setup, and yes, I believe Tesla was involved. in it.
Yes, Tesla was.
How much did that benefit any community in Harris County?
ERCOT decides where it goes.
Thank you. So why do we want to subject ourselves to potential hazard if there's no benefits? What's the return on investment? We're investing our people's lives, our community's betterment. We're investing all that. What's the rate of return on that?
Well, I don't think what they're asking that we're doing anything tonight or would approve anything tonight to put any
I
citizens. at
understand
harm.
that, Councilman Stoll. I do.
I mean, I understand what you're saying. And like I said, I would not vote for a CUP in our current residence for a project like this.
So can we, Lauren, can we state that it has to be outside of certain areas? Is that possible, or is that not permissible, or how does that?
Not as the agenda is, or not as the item is presented tonight.
Okay, so if we ask staff to bring back a text amendment, setting up areas that are permissible for that device, is that permissible? You're gonna have future land use, correct?
Well, this is correct. So there is future land use that would dictate where the zoning would go. And what this is asking for is that this particular land use would only be allowed in light industrial zoning districts inside the city. So we are specifying that it only can happen in light industrial districts right now with this application.
Councilman Townsend, we can definitely look at that and we can have internal discussions because we can add a zoning category like heavy industrial instead of light industrial, that you can add some of these items.
Yeah.
And that's what I
So-
thought we were.
so that's
gonna
just
do.
a- right. Part of the discussions as we go into the changes to the zoning ordinance.
So if that is the case, and I'm okay with that, with what we've been presented tonight, would that apply if you do go to a heavy industrial subtopic? Would this immediately jump over, or would we have to have another meeting to have it go over to the heavy industrial?
When we bring back the adjustments to the zoning ordinance, we would do that along with probably other categories that we just talked about, hazardous stuff that we would want to shift over. We've probably never seen those type of uses come up, and that's why we probably haven't considered the city I was at before. We definitely had a heavy industrial category, and that's the purpose.
And so if we would vote on this tonight, nothing is grandfathered since there's nothing already.
Correct.
Yeah, correct.
So any other discussions on this? Any other comments from the audience? Would like to speak on this? So let's call for the vote.
Motion passes 4 votes yea, 1 vote nay.
Next item on the agenda is executive session. City council will meet in executive session by authorized by Title V, Chapter 551, Government Code of the Texas Open Meetings Act for the following purpose. Section 551.071, consultation with the attorney regarding matter which the attorney's duty requires to be discussed in closed session. Deliberations regarding real property, deliberations regarding security devices, and deliberations regarding economic development. Let the record show that it is now 7:55 p.m. We will be taking a 5-minute break and then opening executive session at 8 o'clock.